So we have Alex, as I mentioned. So I'm going to hand straight over to you, Alex. Engage and interact a live use commenting case in Power BI with Alex Badiu. And over to you.
Good afternoon or good morning, everyone, depending where you connect from. So my name is Alex Badiu. I'm a consultant working with Microsoft Solutions, and I'm in charge of the analytics and BI team in Decilia, which is a consultancy company in Paris. I'm also a super user on Fabric and Power BI, and some of you might know me from Enterprise DNA, from the monthly challenges. I participated in more than a dozen. And or you can know me from the course storytelling, also on the same platform, Enterprise DNA. Yeah, I'm also on last point. I'm a technical reviewer for a book that will soon be published. That was written by Tim, and I think Tim, your name, correct me if I'm wrong, Weinsapfel. That's the pronunciation in German. I don't know if you pronounce it like that.
And it was close enough, Alex.
Yeah. And this is a great book on PowerApps, tips and best practices, and it will be soon published. So yeah, I encourage you to read it once it will be published. And yeah, so that's all about me. And today we'll talk about live commenting in Power BI. And why do we discuss about this topic? It was very interesting because it started also in this user group. A couple of months ago, there was a presentation by Tim on PowerApps integration. And at a certain point in the chat, someone said that live commenting is not possible in Power BI with SharePoint lists. And I said, it depends. And based on that discussion, Sue invited me to do a presentation. So I'm here to present you the it depends. What are the reasons behind it, and show you that it might be possible to create a live commenting in Power BI, even on import mode, even with SharePoint lists. So yeah, that's it, and we will start the presentation.
Yes, be careful what you say, Alex. You never know who's listening.
Yeah, well, it's a good challenge, I think, to discuss about this topic, and there are certainly some use cases where we can implement live commenting with PowerApps and SharePoint lists and import it. So the first statement I have about this is a quote from Seneca that says, if one does not know to which port one is sailing, no winds is favorable. I think this quote, it will make a lot of sense at the end of the presentation once you will see all the limitations and all the tricks and tips that are needed to create something like that. And you understand that when you are talking about integrations, we are talking about complexities that can be introduced. So it is very important to be prepared to structure the data, to have a documentation, and to pass all this project management, project product owner steps in order to know what to build and how to build a strategy to tackle a use case like that. But before we will jump in the demo and in the app that was built, I think it's very important to talk about the use case, because we are not building reports to build reports. We are building solutions to certain problems. We are providing solutions to something that will facilitate the work and will produce an ROE. And for this use case, we will all imagine that we are consultants. Most of us, we are already consultants. And the use case is that we are approached by a contact we have in one of the companies we are working for. It's a major client. And this person that is called Jane sends us a message saying that their teams are spending too much time on data consolidations and adding comments manually. and she asked us if it's possible to implement live commenting directly in Power BI as a solution. So, of course, with so little information, the answer of a consultant would be, it depends. It depends, right? But we can't really answer like that in our email or in our communication. So we need to expand on it and explain why it is important to have more detail. So the answer to Jane would be something that live commenting is indeed possible, but it's not a native and a straightforward approach. There's a need for specific requirements, data sources, how the comments will be managed, and of course, propose to discuss further the details in order to understand what are the problems that needs to be solved, who is working and what is the current process. So based on these informations, Jane will direct us to the person who is working with on this project. And this regional sales analyst, he explains that he is having a lot of workload because of this process, that it happens every closing period. And basically he works in Excel. He needs to connect to Hyperion SBAS. He needs to prepare the templates for each country, send them individually to each country, and wait for 1 week to receive the answers. But of course, people will send at the last moment the Excel files. By the time he consolidates, he finds out that the numbers changed. And then he needs to contact once again the people, send other templates, reconsolidate everything. And this takes a lot of time and it's very inefficient. And the person also explains that he feels unprepared because he needs to do presentations to the executives and he doesn't have a lot of knowledge about what really happens because most of the time he spends consolidating. And also the stress is quite big because more and more processes like this are important to consolidate and to showcase to the management. So he really hopes that we can do something with Power BI and SharePoint lists, because today there's no budget, no willingness to invest in another tool. So basically, if we summarize the big topics about this use case, is that this use case with live comments needs to solve the problem of inefficiencies, the time lost in the process, improve the quality of work because the person will focus more on the data that is being provided, on the consistency of the comments, on the small details. Also, it will reduce stress because there's less manipulations with the data. And also as a success factor, there's a scalability in the sense that more and more processes like this can appear and it will not generate much more work on the current resources. So this use case is it is not completely invented by me. It is some of the ideas are really coming from the ground, from actual use cases that I saw in the last years, and this kind of approach can solve them. So as you can see, there's behind the reports, behind the use cases that we can present, there are really some needs that some people have, and in most of organizations, there are still a lot of processes involving Excel templates, sending emails, and then also consolidating the data. So in terms of objectives, so what we need to do to develop this use case is to use SharePoint and SharePoint lists as a data source. We need to create a report that is in import mode because we need to showcase that it can work with import mode, of course. It needs to, as a success factor, it needs to provide control and simplicity for the end users, but also anticipate simplicity for when deploying the solution in terms of run of the solution and debugging. And also the particularity of this use case is that it answers the needs of different personas. So there will be one report in one app with one page that will answer the needs of different personas. So in conclusion about the use case, I would say, how do I define live commenting in Power BI? I will define live commenting, the possibility to add comments to a Power BI report. Those comments to be immediately available to review, and based on specific processes, to give the possibility for the country, so the personas that is country, to add comments, so to have an edit possibility right back, but at a certain moment to be blocked, to pass from edit to read. So this is what I understand with live commenting, and maybe you have different expectations or different definitions of live commenting. I don't know. Sue, how do you see live commenting? Is it something like I presented, or it can be different?
Yes, I'm just in awe already, Alex, at your the way you're taking us on a journey. So yes, I would agree completely. And to have the one page, I don't want you to stop. I just want you to keep going, please.
Okay.
I love the simplicity and the way you pulled out the journey and you explain what you're doing and the way you're taking us through and the definition. So yeah, that would be my definition too.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I will move forward, and I need to stop, with this slide, with these images, just to show you the importance of sketching. And this sketching part is really, it's a good practice. It's a best practice when you are doing Power BI, but it's really mandatory when you are using Power BI integration with PowerApps or other tools. This is because you need to control and you need to anticipate how the screens will be, because PowerApps will give you even a further complexity in the sense that not only you can have write back, but sometimes you need to have edit mode, sometimes you need to have view mode, sometimes you have interactions between screens, between personas. So it's really important to have them like laid down on a screen. Ideally, you can even do it on paper. I think is the best way to do it on paper. But if not, sketch it on any tool of your choice. Just like simple, rectangles and sometimes a bit of text, just to understand what do you want to propose, what do you want to achieve. So in this case, I have two personas that have a very close, let's say, type of visuals. The two of them will see different things, but they are laid down quite similar. So we will have the persona 1 that will have 4 KPIs that will be displayed on the left side. I think it's, let's see, Alt D. Okay, so we have this part. This is the persona on the country side. So if you think about the persona that will see a country, let's say France, that country, France, we will see KPI 1, KPI 2, KPI 3, KPI 4. These KPIs need to have a bit of context to provide, where you show some numbers and you compare them to last year in terms of percentages and values. On the region side, the second person, we are at region level. So we will, as a region level, we don't want to look country by country, right? It doesn't have a lot of sense to have a filter by country, but you want to see all the countries and you can choose the KPI. So these KPIs that we have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, will become a filter, and we will have we will have the countries laid down here. On the right side of the screen, we will have the PowerApps that will be presented here, and it will be presented in a way that it shows that it's really integrated with Power BI, so it will have the same look and feel, but they will also be different in the sense that on the left side for the countries, it will be edit mode. So countries will enter their comments and they will be able to save their comments. A nice touch will be to show the button save only when there's a comment that is being modified or a new comment. If it's the same comment, we don't want to see the button save. On the right side of the screen for the Persona 2 region, we want to see in view mode all these comments for each country, but we want to have a sort of pop-up where we can add, the region analyst can add a regional comment. Also, the region persona will have an option to open or to close the process. That means that if the region persona will close the process, this will pass from edit to view. So the regional sales analyst have the possibility to close the process and make sure that the presentations that will be done to the executives will be the ones that he reviewed and accepted. Last but not least is the filters that are very important in the integration with PowerApps, because these filters will action as parameters, dynamic parameters to PowerApps. Also, we know that we want to do a live commenting. So if we want to do a live commenting, it means that we don't want to integrate SharePoint lists as data source in Power BI. Because if we do that, we will not have dynamic comments. So in order to have them dynamic, we need to have only one connection between Power BI and PowerApps. That is Power BI integration that will be dictated by the filters. That is also best practice because we don't want to create too much bridges between the tools. We want to create something simple, only one bridge. And if something happens, if there's a problem, we know where to look. If not, in terms of integration, it will be a nightmare to find out where the problem comes. Okay. We also need to think about what makes the difference between one persona and the other. How can we choose when to look at one persona or the other? And this will come also from measures in DAX, where in this case, I'm saying that if I'm seeing on the screen more than one country, that means I'm a regional persona. If I am looking at only one country, then I'm a country persona. And based on that, I can decide what screen will be shown to which person. Okay. It will be much clearer when we look at the...
It sounds absolutely, I'm just trying to think in the background of how you're doing it all. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, we will see. We'll see everything.
Yeah.
So here is my Power BI report. So I have now the two screens, the comments BU and comments BLR, which is the region. Here I'm having the country region. So as you can see, I have exactly the same structure as in my sketching. I have my PowerApps here. I'm adding a comment. So you can see now the button is activated. It was not the case when nothing was there. So I'm saving the data. And now if I have a screen for the region, if I'm looking at the data, it will be directly activated. So I will show you that. How to change this, but I will show you that we are talking about an import mode. So you will see the model as well. Okay. So this is the model. It's an import mode. So everything we are doing is in import mode. So it's really working, this live connection between the reports. Here I'm in the region country. So I'm having everything by country. And if I want to open this, I can add a comment. Test. Saving. And also I can close the process. Minimize, close the process. So now if I'm looking at the country level, I will see that everything is grayed out. I can't add any comments anymore because the region persona closed the process. So it's very straightforward, and behind this, it's only 2 SharePoint lists. Okay, but how do you create this SharePoint list? So how do you organize to know what do you do in Power BI and what you do in Power Apps? And I think this is the key, and the key is the integration between the two. So this is the solution, and I will go to the showcase of the solution that we will see. And the methodology to tackle this and to organize to create this app is to follow some important steps. The first step is now the design system ceremonies like meetings on sketching and sketching by persona, and using a user flow to know how the user journey will follow. Decide the structure of the SharePoint. Think about the conceptual modeling and how to reduce the complexities that will come with the integration. And last but not least, have user stories and development and testing strategies. That means also, saying, as a data analyst, I would like this feature because that. So it's very important to concentrate on the use case and not on the technique, on the technical thing methodology that you will do, because there are a lot of details. So you really need to decompose in smaller problems everything you want to achieve. So in terms of how do I define success, is creating something, but something that can be easy. We don't want to create things that are too complex because it will be impossible to maintain or to evolve. And to know, of course, what we want to achieve. And now we will see in the demo directly in the tool 4 demos of 4 main techniques and best practices in terms of integration between Power Apps and Power BI. The first one is DAX as a parameter. So in terms of best practices, and this is something that is also recommended by Microsoft, is to start with a matrix from Power BI, validate the behavior of the report of the DAX measures that you will want to pass as parameters. You need to think about the vulnerabilities, the weaknesses that you have with DAX and how to solve them in Power BI. And then you need to save and to publish to Power BI service. And in Power BI service, you need to do the integration with Power Apps. So this step of doing the Power Apps directly in service is also something that is recommended in Microsoft documentation. So we will see this, how we can do it. So what I did is I prepared the report that we build in Power BI. So this is only Power BI. And we want to basically do the things that we discussed. So I'm taking the DAX measures that I created. One of them is what is the selected country. One is what is the selected industry. And the last one is the BU, is it at region level or country level? So I have this, okay? And if I am in Power BI desktop, I'm stopping here. I'm saving and I'm publishing like this in Power BI service. Okay, I'm already in Power BI service here, so I will choose. Did a mistake. I will not choose yet Power Apps. I will just test that everything is working properly, because it's better to test things as they go, because it's much more complex when you're starting to do the integrations. So I can see now the countries are working fine. I can see that this is working well as well. And now I'm thinking about limitations, right? What are my weaknesses? So my weakness here could be, for example, the fact that I have a slicer that has multiple selections. Because if I have multiple selections, if you remember, the logic I sketched and I thought about is that if I'm having only one country, then I'm a country persona. If I am a region persona, I have multiple countries. So I really need to make sure that in this screen, which corresponds to the country persona, I have only unique selection on the filter, and this is a forced selection. Okay, so this is how I'm covering basically the weaknesses in Power BI. This is just an example. So now I created my measures. I tested my measure. Everything is fine. Everything's correct. I anticipated. Everything is good. Now I'm clicking on PowerApps. Okay, which will, and now it will show this screen. I can choose if I want to go on my default environment in PowerApps, or if I want to go a specific environment. I will choose the default one for now, for this demo purposes. And I'm creating a new PowerApps. So when I'm creating a new PowerApps, it will generate for me a PowerApps with a screen that is already there with a gallery. And hopefully it will, yeah, perfect. So we know that we are in a Power BI integration because we have this. Usually if you create PowerApps only without integrating with Power BI, you don't have this part, okay? So we have this screen that is already created for us. And when I'm here, what I do is I'm adding a new element, I'm adding a new text, and I'm checking my integration. So I have this part, so I can see that I have selected industry. Okay, I have a lot of tests here, and if I'm taking off the selected industries, so I'm just keeping the point, so I can see my measures 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so if I'm choosing something else, I can see that it automatically finds the information that is coming from Power BI. So the integration is working fine. So what I'm doing now, just to make sure that everything is okay, I'm saving my PowerApps. So you can replace or save. So I'm calling it app demo live. Okay. And I'm also waiting to save, and I'm also publishing my app. Okay. So now I'm coming back to my BI. How can I move this around? Okay, so I can see it now. See? Now I can see my PowerApps. So it's looking great. Okay. But it has a small problem. What do you think is the problem here? Do you see any problem here, Sue?
Have you got it linked? So you have to link up the two fields in Power BI with the Power App. So the filters work.
Yeah, everything is working. Yeah, I don't have any, I just have this gallery, but yeah, everything is working fine. And we saw the integration is working fine. But the problem is that our screen is like a phone
Nothing
screen,
there.
right?
Yeah.
It's not wide. So I'm not seeing all the screen here. I want to create something that is really well integrated with Power BI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I can move it around, but it will not look, I don't want to have my screen like that. I want to have it like that. Okay. So that's the second thing that we will see. Okay. Not working as I expected. I will want to make my screen wider. Okay. So in order to make the screen wider, we need to change the orientation to landscape, and we need to disable a scale to fit. Then we need to save and publish. And we will see that these changes from PowerApps to Power BI are not really instant. Okay. So I'm coming back to PowerApps. I'm going to settings. I'm going to general. I'm changing the orientation to landscape, and I'm sliding to off the scale to fit. So now I can see my screen that is better, right? This is how I wanted to see it in Power BI. I need to save it and I need to publish it. Okay. And now everything is okay. I'm going back to Power BI, but I see the same thing, right? So this is one of the major drawbacks, I think, in terms of the integration, is that it's not instant. When you do changes in PowerApps, you can't see them right away in Power BI. And if you want to do like perfect, pixel perfect, it takes a lot of time and a lot of trial and error. There's no possibility to make things that like the screen, to make it like I did it here, it takes many hours to do it.
I left mine tiny because I just couldn't work out how to do it. So I just, you know.
Yeah, and it's really like, and the secret here is that if you are working in Power BI Desktop, you'll never see it. The way to see it is to work in Power BI Service, and that's why I'm working in Power BI Service. And that's why Microsoft also says that you need to work in Power BI Service, and then you need to, you know, go to one screen, to go to another, and provoke this refresh of the screen. So now I can see it that it's better, right? Now it's looking better. So yeah, that's the second thing I wanted to show you.
Yeah, Christian's just said, can we set a custom size in PowerApps? In pixels. Madissi is here. Madissi is here. He said yes.
You can, yeah, you can, but in terms of in the integration, you need to make sure that it's working well with your Power BI, because you're not only working in PowerApps to say my X is that high, that long, and my Y is that long. So it's it's trial and error. It's not really something that you can just define, you know, like Core Builder, and it's working fine.
Yeah.
Okay. A third point that I wanted to do, and this is something that it's quite hidden, is how to add new fields. Okay, so in PowerApps, once you created your integration, it's very hard to do changes to the same integration. So most of the people will delete what they created in PowerApps and then start over. And this is like, of course, it's inefficient. And also, but it's a good lesson because it shows you how much you need to prepare and anticipate the problems that can come. But in reality, there are ways that you can do some changes once you created the integration. Okay, and this is what I want to show you. So I'm here, and I forgot a very important information, because my first metrics in KPI here, it shows me if I'm in a BU view or in a regional view. And this is information is crucial for me. And I forgot to put it inside the PowerApps. So now it's already integrated, right? I can add it here. Nothing will happen here. I will always have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I only have 3. I can't see the fourth metrics. So it's very difficult to come back, right? To add and to propagate new things. So the way to do it is only by using Power BI on service. Okay. So now I added here, I added the DAX measure here, and I need to go to the 3 dots, and then I need to click edit. So now what we'll do, it will open a new screen to the same app, and it will allow me to propagate basically the new change I did in Power BI. So it is loading. Okay. But as a best practice, it's really not straightforward. You can also have some bugs. Yeah. Close this one.
PowerApps is I didn't find it hugely intuitive. I found it, you know, it took a while to understand how to make it work.
Yeah, well, it's a really different domain,
Very
and I
different,
think
yeah.
you have much more options in PowerApps compared to Power BI, but I think it's part of the ecosystem. So
Yes,
in
yeah,
terms
yeah,
of
yeah,
integration, you can also have them integrated, PowerApps in Power BI or Power BI
yeah,
integrated in
yeah.
PowerApps, or have them really differently. So yeah, normally, hopefully, yeah, you can see sometimes it's not really working as expected. So trying once again. Edit, it will open once again. This time it will not override the other one, and hopefully we can see the fourth formula appearing. Okay. Are there any questions on the chat so far?
Basically, Medasir, I don't know if I pronounced it right. It said once you go to Power BI, Power Apps, you never go back. So there's a lot of love for Power Apps.
Yeah, a bit less for the integration, but
yeah. I mean, it
so,
does
yeah.
make sense, doesn't it, to have the two together? I've used it for a couple of reports where where you wanted to actually capture comments and filter them through, but it did take me a little while.
Yeah,
and I
it
certainly
makes...
wasn't as quick as and as in depth as you're showing now. I got stuck on the resize and left it in a small corner.
So yeah, so you see, like this integration, normally this is the steps to do it. I don't see now the fourth formula. Normally I should have seen it. So it can work, but really it's good to anticipate and make it from the first time. So that's why it's important to do the sketching and all the steps, because it will save you a lot of time, like here it's not working, so it's quite frustrating. So you prefer to, start fresh and delete everything and start over again. Okay, so that's the third thing. The fourth one is the main techniques I used in this report to create the comment side. So basically, behind every screen, every KPI or every KPI that you can see in the BU personas, there are actually 4 forms. Okay, and these 4 forms are having some specific techniques to push the Power BI integration to control what PowerApps is doing. That is why when I'm using inside Power BI a filter, it will propagate immediately to PowerApps, and it will filter also PowerApps. So what am I doing is I'm making sure of different aspects in terms of PowerApps. First, I'm looking at a default mode. So default mode is when I'm adding a comment inside Power BI, I need to know, is it a new line that I need to add in a SharePoint list, or is it a modification of an existing line, right? So I might have a comment that I showed you earlier, and I just want to add I want to complete, right? I don't want a new line. I want to modify the existing one, right? So this is very important, and these are things that we are not thinking about when we are creating Power BI. We don't have this complexity. So in this case, so the default mode, the way I want to have the form of each line is if I want to have new or edit mode. And I'm doing this logic, so it's quite easy to understand. If filter first of filter of my SharePoint list, where I have a title that is called demo comment. This can be changed. And my KPI is opportunity count. This is also hard-coded. This is different to each, right? For each KPI. Each KPI, it will have a hard-coded one.
Okay.
So when I have these rules and I have an industry that is the one that is coming from Power BI, and the country is what is coming from Power BI, and I'm looking at the KPI, if it's blank, then it's a new. If it's not blank, then I have an edit, right? So in order to understand this, we'll look here. So the KPIs are here, right? This is the information. This is the structure of how I created the SharePoint list. I have the title, which cannot be changed, but it's good to have like a reference what we are talking about. The country, the KPI, the industry, and the comment. And these informations are automatically generated, the date and who created this. The thing that interests me in my report is only this part. I don't care about this one. This one I want to come from Power BI, right? I don't want to ask someone to complete all this data. I just want them to add the comment. So that means that I need to make PowerApps understand that the KPI is coming from the integration from Power BI, the industry the same, the country the same, and only this is coming as a comment. And if I am the regional persona, of course, I don't want a new data source. I want the same data source, but if I am a regional persona, I will write the same comment here, but here the country will be a region. It will be automatically written region, and the information will come in the comment. So, so when I have this, so I'm looking at the KPI if it's blank and new. So this is the first thing that is important in terms of the logic what you create in PowerApps. The second one is what information I will feed, inside the SharePoint list. So this is something like that is coming directly from Power BI. So I have the same structure, right? Filter of my SharePoint list with these rules. This information will be provided of what do I see inside SharePoint list. If I don't have anything, I don't show anything. If I have something, I'm showing what I have, right? Because if I wrote a comment, I want to see that I wrote a comment. So this is also an important aspect. The third topic is the visibility part. What is persona, what is region, and what is country? Okay, and I have this here. So I will show you the actual Power BI report. So as you can see, everything needs to be clean and needs to be tied up. Like I have a group of the BU persona and I have a group of the region persona. And here I have all my forms, okay? And inside my forms, I have all the columns that are coming from SharePoint list. The only one that interests me is the comment one. And also I change the type of input to be something that is HTML, and also that I can have bold and colors and size.
Okay.
For the other ones, if you are looking at the information, the X, Y is 0 and the visibility is false. I don't want to see them. I only want to see the comments. Right. So these are already existing. So, in terms of KPI, if I'm looking at item, default, I can see that this is opportunity count, hard-coded. This is for the operation count. For revenue, is the same thing. It will be hard-coded. So everything is hard-coded or, dynamic if it's coming from Power BI. And the only thing that is available is the comment side. So this is an important aspect to make it work and to be intuitive, right? The second, so all columns except the comments are hard-coded or dynamically determined by the values that are passed by Power BI integration.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
It was, so Fernando's asking, how do you assign permissions on who can add comments? I guess that depends upon who you add to the different work groups. And what happens if people add multiple comments on the same KPI?
I'm like, for this use case, I have one person per country, right? This is the thing that I added. If you have multiple persons, you can't have multiple comments on the same KPI. So normally they can change the KPIs of each person.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing with the integration is then, you can assign permissions, can't you, depending upon
Yeah, so everything is coming also from Power BI, right? We can use
Yeah.
LLS to have access to only one country, so they will see only one country. So the filter that will come to PowerApps is saying, okay, he has only access to that country. So this is how you are making it work, this integration, by using both Power BI and PowerApps. So which is a bit more complicated because you need to find like the logic between the two. Another feature that I created here is on the save button, right? Because I wanted to make it in a way that if the forms doesn't have any information, it will be in edit mode. If not, it will be disabled. So basically what happens is that, so let me activate once again my process. And yeah, I didn't show you this, but this is also a SharePoint list. So this is a second comment state. This is a second SharePoint list that data source that has only two information.
Yeah.
Okay. So so in terms of process, this is how I want it to work. Everything is okay. So I added an information. I did a change. I can have this button that is activated. If not, it's not working, right? So like that, it really pushes people to say, okay, I want to do the change, or I just want to modify it just to see how it is. I don't know. So this is also a nice UX UI kind of application that is being created. So this is for the main features that I used inside the country persona. And inside the region persona, there are two topics. So in this case, we will not have the region persona. We will not have a form anymore. So this will be a gallery. So this is, it cannot be changed. But the features important that for the region country is I have here a pop-up where I can write the comment for the region, and I can choose to close the process or activate it whenever I want. Okay, so these are the main two. So it's a bit simpler. Let's say the process for the region persona. So what I created here is a variable, and this variable will choose to have like a number. This number will be used dynamically inside the app to open or to close this block. So this is like the equivalent of bookmarks in Power BI. Okay. So it will close or it will open. It will be the information will be displayed like that. And this will do a patch on the select. So on select, I'll do a patch on my SharePoint list, and I will pass the value of 0 or 1. And I will update also a variable that will be used to show or to hide a block that is here. And what is nice about PowerApps compared to Power BI is that you can have elements that can have visibility that is false, and you can see what is beneath it, right? In Power BI, you can make them like with the colors and things make transparent, but they will always be there. You will not be able to like interact with the graph that is behind it. That's why it's not a best practice to overlay features in terms of Power BI. But in PowerApps, you can do it. It's recommended to do it like that.
Okay.
So yeah, so these are the main topics that I have. Of course, it's very important to work in a clean way, like rename all the elements. That's something that is very important. And yeah, I have one slide. Yeah, I have some recaps, so some best practices that I said. Validate the behaviors in Power BI before doing the integration. Doing the publishing to Power BI and editing from the web, that's where you launch your integration. You need to maintain consistency and think about the strategy of what you are doing in Power BI and what things you want to do in Power Apps. Of course, you need to test. You need to adapt your settings to landscape. You need to avoid unnecessary modifications because it's much harder to come back and do some modifications, as we saw. Documentation is really important because without documentation, you are lost. It's much more difficult than only having a report. You need to use the integration and think about when you have new rows, when you modify rows. You need to add features like bold colors, with rich text editor. You need to create intuitive save buttons, in this case, in our use case. And then you need to empower users to be able to close the process or open the process to have a full control of what happens in the report. So I think I have like one last slide. This is the conclusion, the importance of documentation, the challenges that we saw, the importance of anticipation because it can generate complexities, and also how you can improve the process, this current process, because it's just a POC, right? So you might have Power BI launch, other Power Automate, send notifications. You add some tracking and make notifications to the regional analyst that some countries did or did not do the comments. You can add in PowerApps also Power Automate to send reminders to countries that did not complete the comments, etc., etc. So you don't really have a limitation in terms of what you can do in terms of integration. The only complexity is the maintenance and the importance of documentation, because now you can go way beyond what you can do in terms of reporting in Power BI.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So yeah, so this is everything I needed to say. I don't know if there are other questions or.
I think you just hit it completely the nail on the head there. That you've shown such a use case of complexity about what you can do that I would never have thought to have different personas and to be able to turn the apps on and off. And I've got a very basic apps integrated within Power BI reports, but nothing in the complexity that you have behind the scenes to get everything working. So, like you said, having the documentation to actually structure and highlight what you've done on each step with the DAX code and then the PowerApps code, it is quite phenomenal. How long do you think it took you to get to that level of knowledge and skill to interact amongst the two?
Well, for doing this app, like from start to finish, from the first ideas, I think it took me between 30 hours and 40 hours, like 1 hour each night thinking about this. So I think it's half preparation to think and know what you want to do, half really doing things. Because when you know what you want to do, even if you have limitations, you always find a way.
Yeah.
But it's important to be organized from the beginning and doing these steps and these drawings and these steps of preparation, and also documented everything. So I had like a note, and every time I took like the metro or the bus, I would have a new idea. I say, I would like to have this. It would be great to have that. And then I would consolidate my notes, and I would say, okay, maybe this is a feature to be developed, or maybe it's it's nice to have. There are many things that you can add, but I wanted to do something that is a use case that is close to what users would like to see. Complex, but not too complex, because everything here is under control. Let's say there's nothing that is too difficult to optimize and to change. And there are patterns also in terms of Power BI, in terms of PowerApps, and something that also forgot to mention. The presentation that you saw is coming from a template from OneSkill, which is a developer on YouTube that is very good in creating PowerPoint presentations. Some of them are free. This template was a free one, so I used that one. And also, if this report that I did looks familiar, it is familiar because I chose to use a report from Miguel Myers, right on the buttons, because I wanted to make something that everyone feels like familiar with, right? And of course, it's a great report, and that was developed by Miguel Myers. And I wanted to expand his universe, so that's why I took this part of creating this. Yeah, exactly. Anthony.
Brilliant. And Anthony's just popped the link into the One Skill PowerPoint, because that's such a good PowerPoint, isn't it? It's just that the simplicity of the points, and it really felt like we were going on a journey. That was just awesome.
It looks like a report, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. And then using I wanted to expand Miguel Myers' presentation, Power BI report. So Aurora said, would you recommend to get familiar with PowerApps before starting to integrate with Power BI? Maybe create a simple app first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the integration is the most difficult one, right? Because you need to know PowerApps in the same time of Power BI, and then decide, what do I do in PowerApps? What do I do in Power BI?
Yeah. And then I love the way you had because it all goes back to your slide at the very, very beginning, which was about understanding, where you're going to before you then, because by really focusing and structuring what you want to achieve, then you can work out how you're going to get there step by step by step, and decomposing the problem into little problems and one step at a time. There's so much love in the chat. Tim said that was a great use case, and it's really opened up some new ideas for him. So I think you've got him thinking as well. And Takimi wants to use this methodology. A thank you from Jack. Anthony's posted in there the One Skill PowerPoint. And Rahul said he was just in awe the whole time. The same, Rahul. I was in awe the whole time. There is such precision, and if you look at any of Alex's work that he's carried out, particularly, I did your course on enterprise DNA on storytelling, and it just blew my mind. And Alex says, any resource courses recommendation for learning PowerApps?
I think the best learning is by doing. Try to find a use case, an easy one. And then there are a lot of resources online, right? Videos and blogs. Same as Power BI. Find a use case, a simple one. And try to decompose what you need and search for it, and you will do it. And you will learn. I think it's the best way to learn.
Yeah. I always find that if I've got a reason to do something, then that gives me the motivation to actually do it. And similar to you, I had a use case, but very, very small use case, not to that level of complexity. Wow. So Medicea, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. PowerApps inside Power BI is ugliness at next level, but Alex managed to seamlessly integrate Power App design with PowerApps. Bravo.
Thank you. Well, especially coming from Medicea, who is
I know
a great Power App designer, a great Power BI designer. So that's
yeah. And did you do the Tableau Editor course, Medicea? Did he do a Tableau Editor course on Enterprise DNA? I did watch one of his courses, and again, Enterprise DNA, so many amazing courses. And Tim's put in a post, Shane Young's really, really good. I used him as well to create. You did Charticulator and Trikesh, yes. One thing that really helped was creating a Power App directly from a SharePoint list. Using Shane Young's YouTube channel. He's really good. I think
Shane
I probably
Reza Dorani as well. He's more technical. Shane Young is really good because he's like simple. You understand the concepts. It's always light. Reza Dorani is really technical.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah, Reza. They're so good. Any last questions for Alex before we let him get on with his evening, and then you can go back on the metro and start thinking of other other problems that we throw out. Goodbye, Christian.
I already started.
Oh, what's your next one?
I have many ones.
Yeah.
I need to think what do I start with next. But there are a lot of integrations, and Tim is also a great person to talk with, having a lot of ideas. So it's really great to interact with.
Yeah, we had Tim was,
the
Tim did the session for us. It was just, so lucky to have, aren't we so lucky to have so many resources that people share online for us. Next week we have James Dales. So have you seen any of his stuff, Alex? He's doing a session for us on Icon Map Pro, which is mind-blowing. I saw him do a talk at SQL Bits where he used real-time intelligence to gather data from planes flying over his house using a little Raspberry Pi, which then fed into a Custo database, which then fed into his Power BI report, which then had all these little planes, and it was awesome. So lots of love in the chat, and lots of thank yous. That was
yes. Just one last message.
Yeah.
If any one of you is interested in having access to the Power BI or the PowerApps, just contact me and I'll send you the files.
You
like
sure?
That, yeah.
Oh, I can put it in. We've got a GitHub site. I didn't like to ask because I know how much work, but if you're happy to share with us, I can pop it into our GitHub site
There's a reason why I chose to do the Miguel Myers report, right? Because Miguel Myers is sharing with everyone, so I'm using his resources, trying to do something more. So it's normal that this should come back to the community.
Oh, well, if you don't mind, I will put it in our GitHub repository, and then everyone can use it. But a big thank you and lots of claps from Donald and Anthony and just everyone that's here. It just really gives you an idea of the art of the possible, and with your level of design skills. So a huge thank you from me and for everyone that has watched tonight and that will watch online, for sharing your knowledge, and we'll pop it into the GitHub site. Let me find, I think probably Anthony's on it. So, and thank you, Anthony, for helping with the chat. We decided, Alex, because it's difficult to keep fully focused on the presentation and manage the chat as well. So that's why, Anthony's stepping up to help as well, so that we can both between us manage and interact with the session and the chat. So Anthony will be helping, along the way as well. So really thank you to everyone, because I love the way that everyone can chat and be part of the group and ask questions. And I think as a presenter, it's so much nicer to actually have interaction with the people that are sort of listening to your talk. Let me just find the repository for you, and I'll pop it in the chat. There we go. He's there. He's got it. Sue, question. Yes, Takimi. I've got a Sue question. Sue ... question. Yes, sorry, go on. Yes.
Sorry, I'm talking. Hopefully it's not recorded. But
hang on. I will stop recording. So we are still recording. I will stop recording. Okay. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. How was the audience reaction